I went to get out of the car and collapsed. I could feel my life force draining out through my feet. And I kept saying, I thought I was shouting, I was saying, I'm dying, but it came out, I'm dying. And he picked me up, carried me in, no pulse, called an ambulance, got me to the hospital, got me squared away. I was out. I just was out. And I woke up, I don't know, quite a while later, a couple days later, and there's all my family there, from California, from Denver, from San Diego, from all over the place. And I thought, this isn't good. And I was in a tent, and it was the last thing I remember was New Year's Eve. And I remember they were watching TV, and the ball came down for the year 2000, So this was kind of an interesting time to leave the planet. But anyway, the doctor came in and says, you've got something called ARDS. That's acute respiratory distress syndrome. You got a 38% chance of making it. That's the best we can do. We have to put you into a drug-induced coma. We're going to try everything we've got. Throw the book at you. It's not going to be pretty. We don't want you pulling out tubes and getting freaked out. So you're going to be out. You will remember nothing of what happens. Your brain's going to be offline. You'll remember nothing. It's just like going to sleep, dreamless to sleep. So there was nothing else I could do. They said they were going to, trach me and put the ventilator in and all that stuff. My family, there was no choice. So my dad gave me a thumbs up. I gave him a thumbs up, and I was out. I don't know when it was, but I became conscious. I was just awake in this totally dark place. I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't see anything. I didn't know if I was standing or sitting. It was almost like a joke. It was like somebody put me in a closet, like when you're kids, you hide in a closet. And I thought, well, there's nothing I can do but just kind of hang out. I'm not in pain or anything. And it seems okay. So I don't know how long I was there, but then eventually I could see the kind of a reddish glow was happening. And I thought, oh, great, the sun's coming up. Maybe I'll be able to see where I am. But as it got lighter, it wasn't clear. It was foggy, swirling fog. Pretty, but weird. And then it started getting a little too warm. It smelled really bad. And then I started hearing shrieking and moaning coming out of this fog. And I thought, oh, wow, this can't be good. And then this voice just boomed out, scared me half to death, and said, do you know where you are? And I'm thinking. Only thing I can come up with is hell? And then the voice did this maniacal laugh. Scared the you-know-what out of me. I just turned to the left and ran into the darkness. I didn't care if I hit a wall, fill in a ditch. That thing was going to get me. So I kept running and then stopped because I couldn't see anything again. And boom, some lights came up. It was like being on a movie set, where they just turn the lights on and the whole place illuminates. And I stopped dead. I didn't know where I was. I'm looking around, and it looked like I was in, I picked New York City. It was a huge city. And you've seen these movies where it's been bombed or Godzilla showed up or the aliens came in, but it was a mess. All the buildings are toppling. The windows have got no glass, and there's fires and big chunks of concrete rebar and people screaming. I thought, now what? I'm standing there with all this chaos going on, and I thought, I didn't see any other people. And I thought that was strange. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to tuck back inside one of these concrete places and just catch my breath. And again, I will give this right up front. I never thought I was dead this whole time. Your spirit is you, and it's like our bodies are a car, and we put our spirit in it and we drive around in this body. And then when we don't need our body anymore, it's still just us. So I'm waiting for something to happen, and it's rather a long, involved thing. But, there were creatures there. There were semi-people there, but nothing friendly, nothing warm and fuzzy. And I felt like I needed to get out of there. So I ran to try and get over a concrete wall so I could maybe see which way I should go. But I fell backwards, and it became dark again. then boom, the lights came up and I'm in another situation. And one of the situations when I mean, it was bad enough to be in a war zone. Uh, it was bad enough. Another couple of places were just weird. But the next one, there was a demon standing there, a big one. I mean, I had to look up to see this thing that looked kind of like a Bigfoot, but he spoke perfect English, which I thought was very strange. He had a club, and he's just waiting for me to open my eyes. And, the expression on my face, of course, was probably priceless to him. And I just stopped and I thought, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like this. I don't know what to do. I know this isn't a friendly thing. And he said, do you want to get out of here? And I said, yes. And he says, okay, I got a job for you. And I said, a job? And he says, yes, if you do one thing for me, I'll see that you get out. And I thought, okay, well, I got no better offers. And okay, what is it? So he says, I just want you to cut down this field for me. And I thought, field. And the lights came up, and as far as I could see was blackberry bushes, high. I mean, like 6, 7 feet tall, all intertwined as far as you could see. And I kind of looked at that, and if you're ever familiar with blackberry bushes, which we are up in Washington, they're a mess to get rid of. So he hands me these paper cutting scissors that you give to children and says, go for it. And I looked at him like, that's a joke, right? Where are my gloves? Where are my clippers? And he just shrugged his shoulders. And so I thought, well, you are some kind of a jerk, and I'm not going to let you get the best of me. So I went down, and I'm trying to gnaw on one of these canes. And it took a while. And I finally got it cut off, and I went to put it behind me. And when I turned back around, it grew back. And I looked up at this demon, and he's laughing. He's thinking, this is so funny. It's like it was a cat and a mouse kind of thing. And I thought, I'm getting out of here. I don't care. Where else am I going to go? So I just started cutting again, but then the lights went out. And then the lights came up. And between some of these episodes, I'd find myself on this really, really long road. And it wasn't like paved or anything. It was just a dirt path, and it went, well, when I was standing there, if I'd known where I was, it went to the left or the right. No signs, of course. And there's just this glowing horizon out there. There's no stars or moon or anything. It's just this red fog everywhere. And so I didn't know which way to go. I feel like I'm on a freeway, I'll turn right, So I started walking, and it's just dirt, some rocks. In the distance, occasionally there'd be a pile of rocks, to break up the monotony. It was just endless. So I spent a lot of time walking on that road. Again, not knowing I was dead, I just thought I wasn't in Kansas anymore. I mean, there's something happened. Did the aliens get me or what? I just knew I had to be very alert. I was always turning around to make sure nothing was sneaking up on me. That was really the best part of the whole thing, because I could see around me. Whereas in these other situations, they just popped up as the lights came up. So I met a couple of people on that road, and I'm one of the few people I know that saw living people in this situation. I had 2 scenarios where I saw living relatives, not dead ones. And when I got back, of course, I couldn't forget anything that had happened. And so I remembered, what am I supposed to do with that? Well, it finally came to me that I needed to give both of them lessons that they needed to have, so they could change something in their lives that were going to cause them pain and distress and not go in the right direction, kind of thing. And that's really weird when you go up to somebody, and it's a real icebreaker. I saw you in hell, and I have this message for you. I mean, the mouth drops open, the eyes go up. What? So one person that I told, we had quite a conversation about it. It was very plain what I saw happening in her life that I had to tell her about. And I mean, I'd already known that about her, but we had a couple of tense situations. And then finally, I haven't talked to her in like 20 years. So that didn't work out well. The other one was a younger person who was in a really, really bad marriage, and things weren't not good for her to be there. And when I gave her message, she put it in the back of her mind. And it was months later that she got the courage to get divorced from this person. And about a year later, I saw her at Christmas, and she came up with a glass of wine and says, "All right, sit down. Tell me about this hell thing again."
No.
And she says, "Because I was in a personal hell." "How did you know that?" And so we talked that through, and she was very grateful. She says, "I kept thinking about that. And yeah, it gave me the courage, to do what I had to do." I'm walking on this road and I start smelling something wonderful. And I thought, wow, this is really unusual. And I'm hungry and I'm thirsty and I'm tired. Again, not realizing I didn't have my body. And so when I got to her, she had been making this huge banquet at her husband's behest. He used to do a lot of entertaining to move up his career, and was taking advantage of her in this situation. So I got up there and I saw all this food and everything. And I asked her, I said, "Could you just give me a plate, a small plate, anything at all on there, and a glass of water? I'll get out of your way. I can see you're really, really busy here." And she just looked at me and said, "Well, this is for the important people." Just really mean. And, it hurt me because we were really close. And as I got back on the road and kept walking. So to sit down, when I got back, I was in a coma. I weighed 86 pounds, 3 weeks. I'd just had a nasal tube. I was never a heavy person to begin with. I've lost all my muscle mass, all my muscle memory. All I could do was lay there. They had a feeding tube. I had IVs. I had the ventilator. I could do nothing but think.
Interesting.
So I kept rolling around with this situation in my mind.
And medically, I know you just explained a little bit there, but medically, you didn't technically flatline or anything of this sort, right? Did they ever deem you?
No.
Okay.
Comas are the exception to that. You got to be flatline rule. It's very common, and it is accepted now in the groups that I belong to, that if you're in a coma, your consciousness can wander off. Those experiences are more real than your day-to-day stuff. The fear is so intense and so prolonged. It's not like things are morphing and changing and drifting, and it's all like being alive, but someplace else. It's real. And the fact that a dream is going to dissipate is or hallucinations dissipate. You can get those out of your mind, but this doesn't happen in your mind. It just happens in your soul, which is really you.
Right.
So no, I had no doubt. It was so real that when I woke up, I was terrified of going back to that place again. It was so real that terrifying is just all I can say. The people I was one of the ones that I'm going to make up a new term here. It's a dual NDE, where I started off in hell, but I ended up in heaven in the presence of God. So most distressing NDEs will end up in heaven. Not all of them do, but that experience too is just so beyond real. It still causes emotion. How many dreams do you have, 15, 20 years ago still cause the kind of emotion because it's so real. It happens every time I talk about it. I'm there. I'm there again. I know there was parts of things that happened in heaven that I saw and they told me. And when I came back, I could remember. So they mind wipe you a lot of times. They don't want you to know the future. They want you to work it out yourself. They give you the clues and then they say, okay, you got to do this. They don't tell you how or when or with whom. So a lot of times people die, flatline, what have you, and they're not allowed to remember what happens. Or they just get pieces of it, or they'll go about their day and weeks and years, and all of a sudden, boom, something happens, and they go, "Wow, I knew that was going to happen." How is that deja vu kind of thing where you say, "I've been here before, I've heard this before." When it happened, it was like this instant infusion of love and bliss and joy, just like you're a balloon being filled up with air. And I just expanded and completely forgot everything that happened before, and just enjoyed this incredible love. And you can't talk. I mean, it's ineffable. Yeah, there's nothing like it here. Okay, right. You take all the joy and the bliss you ever had in your whole life and blow it up a million times. It's close. And people say that, and you go, "Yeah, it's true." So you're so in love, you're so accepted, you're so joyful. You don't want to ever leave that. And then all of a sudden, then the bright light. But the bright light doesn't hurt. It's warm, and you can look at it, and it's all around. So the bright light kind of started to dim a little bit, and then it was still this white, but it looked like the inside of like a church or something with high ceilings, and it was just expansive, really. I mean, there's hardly, you can see the end of it. It was beautiful. And I did notice that there was a big table on the side, and I thought, well, that's weird. And there was a huge book, like an architect's book or something, a plan map, and it was open halfway. And I thought, they were telling me something about that book. And I remember saying, "Oh no, that's going to be too hard. I want to stay here with you." And I looked up, and there's my friend who had died the month before. And he'd had leukemia, of course, and had in the hospital. Of course, his hair had fallen out, and he was all purple and swollen and horrible. But he looked great. He looked, instead of 53, he looked like he was about 35. And his hair was brown instead of gray. And I'm thinking, what's going on? And he was wearing a sweater I gave him. So I knew it was him, and he was happy, and he was just chuckling like, I know something you don't know, kind of, we always used to play tricks on each other. And I thought, oh my gosh, he doesn't know he's dead. I'm not going to be the one to tell him and ruin his day. Well, he started laughing, and I thought, well, I didn't say that out loud. He must have read my mind. And then I thought, click. Well, if he's dead and I'm standing here next to him, I must be dead too. And this has got to be heaven. I was so excited. I was so happy. And I said, what are we doing just standing here? Show me around. Let's go. And then he walked slowly over, and he didn't let me touch him. He just said, "Now, Mary Kay," which is what he called me, "you've got too much left to do." Slap in the face, cold water poured over you. They're throwing me out? No, I don't think so. No. I said, no. And I stamped my foot, I crossed my arms, and I dared him, Boom. I did go through a kind of like a timeout period in this lovely little place and walk down a stream, and, I had to cool off. And I ran into 3 ladies there along the way, and they were welcoming me back to earth. They were telling me I needed to, I had to live with the guy I was dating, because that's what I needed to do, and to give him a message. And they gave me a piece of paper. And when I woke up, I just remember thinking my hand was still like this, but when I couldn't move. So later when I can move, I thought, oh, they took my paper, but I guess it wasn't there. I didn't make the journey. But then I woke up, and I thought, there's all these people and commotion, and the lights are too bright, and I couldn't move. And I thought, oh, what fresh hell is this, And then the people, one of them said, my daughter says, "Mom's back." And, that freaked me out. And then they're all screaming, and they run over, and they're patting my foot, and they're in my face. And I was just so freaked out. And my daughter says, "No, Mom, you've been really, really, really sick. You've been out for 3 weeks. We thought you were going to die. They told us to say goodbye. You weren't going to make it. And you came back, and my eyes, all I could move was this finger and blink. That was it. So I couldn't talk. Thank God. I still had that thing in my throat. And they were so happy to have me back. And I thought it's a good thing I can't talk because I would be very rude and ungrateful. But there I was.